Now, let me get started with the introduction of the author, Oliver Sacks. He was born in 1913. Now, let me get started with the introduction of the author. Oliver Sacks was born in 1933 in London and was educated at the Queen's College, Oxford. He completed his medical training at San Francisco. So, just the name of the author, his origin, it will be enough. So the main idea of this essay on library, before we move to the essay, or before you read the essay, you need to understand what is the main idea, what is the thesis statement. So the thesis statement of this essay is distinctions between physical library in existence and e-library, right? The differences between physical library in existence and e-library or online library. So physical library हामी चाहिँ फिजिकल्ली लाइब्रेरीमा प्रेजेन्ट भएर आफ्नो एक्सपिरियन्स अथवा बुक पढ्दाको एक्सपिरियन्स र अनलाइनमा चाहिँ अथवा ई लाइब्रेरी एक्सेस गर्दाको डिफरेन्सेसहरू चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्ने खालको कुरा चाहिँ द राइटर अफ द एसेइस्ट हैज मेन्सन इन हिज एसे. So I have presented the key points of this essay so that it will be clear, or it will be enough for you. If you go through these key points, it will be enough for the understanding. The narrative, that this is the narrative essay on libraries by Oliver Sacks that deals with the differences between the trends of using library before and after 1990s. So what was the situation of using library before 1990s and after 1990s? So according to him, after 1990s, there was a revolution, or the writer faced some changes in the field of library. So he draws some clear distinction between physical library in existence and e-library. E-library र physical library को differences-हरु चाहिँ दिइरहेको छ. So I'll present you those differences here. Library was the favorite room for the author, for the writer. Library was the favorite room, and even at his home, since his parents were also fascinated by books. So there were many books at his home also. They had collected books of different scholars. His parents, they had collected books from different scholars, and the writer used to read those books at his home. Whenever he was late for lunch or dinner, could be found completely absorbed by a book in the library. So when he was late for his dinner or lunch, his parents would find him in the library, or he used to be there at his library. The essayist states that he spent many happy hours of reading in the different libraries of different schools and colleges, including some public as well. So after different collegeहरुमा अथवा different कलेजको चाहिँ लाइब्रेरीहरुमा पढेको एक्सपिरियन्सहरु चाहिँ अथवा कुन कुन लाइब्रेरी गए भन्ने कुराहरु चाहिँ he has mentioned there. He visited Radcliffe Science Library, the Bodleian Library, Walker Library, British Museum, etc. To read different books of his quest. आफ्नो interest अनुसारको बुकहरु पढ्नको लागि चाहिँ he went to different libraries, or after university अथवा college पढ्दाखेरको libraryहरु चाहिँ he has mentioned that in his essay. Similarly, Sacks says that he was a good reader in library, so he didn't enjoy passive reading in his schools. He says that he was not a good pupil, but he was a good reader, or good learner. So he didn't want to be passive, and he didn't want to be in a class, so that he could learn something himself by reading books in library. So he says, I was not a good pupil, but I was a good learner. In the library, the writer was free to look at the thousands of books, 10,000s of books, free to roam, right? यताउता घुम्न पढ्नको लागि आफ्नो वेमा पढ्नको लागि चाहिँ he was free there, and he used to enjoy the spatial atmosphere and the quiet companionship of other readers, all like himself on quest of their one. हैन आफ्नो इच्छा अनुसारको बुक पढ्नको लागि अथवा आफू जस्तै अरु रिडर्सहरुसँग चाहिँ फ्रेन्डशिप गर्नको लागि he was free there. When Sacks got older, his reading was increasingly biased towards the sciences, especially astronomy and chemistry. जब आफू चाहिँ हुर्किँदै गयो राइटर, त्यसपछि चाहिँ उसको इन्ट्रेस्ट चाहिँ साइन्स अथवा साइन्स भित्र पनि एस्ट्रोनोमी र केमिस्ट्रीमा चाहिँ उसको इन्ट्रेस्ट गयो. He used to read those books, basically the books which were based on astronomy, and chemistry. The essayists became so fascinated by Theodore Hook, who was admired in the 19th century for composing more than 500 of operas on the spot, and decided to write a sort of biography or case history of him, right? जसले चाहिँ 500 भन्दा बढी, right? चाहिँ ओपेराज कम्पोज गरेको थियो। सो उसको बारेमा चाहिँ बायोग्राफी अथवा केस स्टडी अथवा केस हिस्ट्री लेख्नको लागि चाहिँ उसलाई मन लागेको थियो राइटरलाई। एन्ड ही वाज सो फेसिनेटेड अर इन्सपायर्ड बाई Theodore Hook, who was one of the writers. No other library apart from the British Museum Library could have provided the materials he needed, and the tranquil atmosphere means peaceful atmosphere, एकदम शान्त वातावरण of the Berlin was a perfect one in which to write, right? So he's talking about the best library he had visited there in the different cities, in the different colleges. But the library he most loved at Oxford was their one library at the Queen's College. Okay, Queen's College School Library. It was most loved for him. It was in the walls of the Queen's College that he really gained a sense of history and of his own language. History को बारेमा अथवा आफ्नो one language को बारेमा चाहिँ, right? Queen's College को library मा he got some books about that. Next, he says the essayist first came to New York City in 1965, and at that time he had a horrid, poky little apartment in which there were almost no surfaces to read or write on. When he moved to New York City, New York move his apartment was somehow small, right? A little apartment here. Fortunately, the library at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, where he worked, had this in abundance. भनेको त्यहाँ चाहिँ त्यो लाइब्रेरीमा, right? He could read and write properly because there were large table to sit and read and write. Though the library was quite whispered, conversations might start in the stacks, right? He says that two of you perhaps were searching for the same book, the same bound volumes of brain, right? जब चाहिँ त्यहाँ चाहिँ whispered conversation हुन्छ, एकअर्का बिचमा बिस्तारै कानेखुसी गरेर चाहिँ कुराकानी हुन्छ, होइन? दुईटा त्यहाँको भिजिटर्सले लाइब्रेरीमा रिडर्सले एउटै बुकहरू पढ्नको लागि चाहिँ right, they may search for the same thing and there might be discussion. Okay, so it says that the conversation could lead to friendship. The conversation चाहिँ फ्रेन्डसिपमा चेन्ज हुन सक्छ. All of them in the library were reading our own books, observed in our own walls, and yet there was a sense of community, even intimacy. त्यो चाहिँ एउटा कम्युनिटीमा चेन्ज हुन्छ, त्यहाँको रिडरहरू, राइट? त्यहाँ एक खालको इन्टिमेसी, घनिष्ठता अथवा फ्रेन्डसिप. The physicality of books, right? Physicality of books here means the presence, physical presence of the book, along with their places and their neighbors on the bookshelves, right? Their neighbors means all the books, was part of this camaraderie. This means comrade or friendship we call. Handling books, sharing them, passing them between them, even seeing the names of previous readers and the dates they took books out. So here it shows how one can be friends with others in the library. लाइब्रेरीमा हुँदा चाहिँ एउटा कमरेड अथवा फ्रेन्डसिप चाहिँ डेभलप गर्न सकिन्छ, अथवा पिपल बीच अथवा रिडर्स बीच चाहिँ खालको इन्टिमेसी डेभलप हुन्छ भन्ने खालको कुरा चाहिँ the writer is talking about here. But a shift was occurring by the 1990s, or there occurred a shift in the night after the 1990s. 1990s पछाडि चाहिँ changes आयो लाइब्रेरीको फिल्डमा. The author would continue to visit the library frequently and read a lot of books, but the students increasingly ignored the bookshelves, accessing what they needed with their computers. So अब स्टुडेन्ट्सहरूले चाहिँ बुक्सहरू, right, they started ignoring the bookshelves and they started reading the books from the computers, or they would consult, or if they had the access to computer and internet, they would read the books from the computer, right, or on the internet also, so that they didn't have to go to library physically. So in this way, physicality of books or physical library चाहिँ e-library convert भयो बिस्तारै after the advancement of new technology. Few of them they wanted to one they went to the shelves, right, book shelves or the library थोरै मात्र गए. The books so far as they were constant were necessary, right? Hence the college they decided to dispose them. Decided चाहिँ अब युजमा नआउने भइसकेपछि कलेजले बुकहरू डिस्ट्रोय गर्न थाल्यो, अब डिस्पोज गर्यो. Over the last few years, most of the books it seems have been thrown out, होइन, पुराना बुकहरू पनि फालिएका छन्. And the writer felt it that a murder or crime had been committed. जब बुकहरू जलाइए त्यसपछि the writer thought that it was a murder, the destruction of centuries of knowledge. सेन्चुरी शताब्दीदेखि चाहिँ चलिआएको अथवा त्यो रहँदै आएको नलेजको चाहिँ डिस्ट्रक्सन भयो भन्ने खालको कुराहरू, बिकज द बुक्स दे वुड प्रोभाइड नलेज टु मेनी पिपल, राइट. सिङ द एसेस्ट डिस्ट्रेस भनेको अलिकति एसेस्टको चाहिँ त्यो स्ट्रेसलाई लिएर, राइट. अ लाइब्रेरियन रिएच्युर्ड हिम द्याट एभ्रिथिङ अफ वर्थ ह्याड बिन डिजिटाइज, भनेको सबै कुराहरू चाहिँ डिजिटाइज भएको छ अथवा कम्प्युटर अथवा इन्टरनेटमा राखिएको छ. He said, then the writer said that he didn't use a computer and he was deeply saddened by the loss of books, even bound periodicals, for there is something irreplaceable about a physical book, right? So तर मसँग कम्प्युटर छैन, होइन, मसँग इन्टरनेट छैन, त्यसरी मैले कसरी पढ्छु भन्ने खालको कुराहरू. And he asked question, right? So it's look, it's smell, right? So it's heft. So यस्तो खालको क्वालिटी जुन हामीले बुकमा पाउँछौँ, होइन, त्यसको लुक्स बुकको लुक्स त अनलाइनमा त त्यस्तै खालको लुक्स पाइँदैन, अथवा नयाँ बुक अथवा हामीले बुक पढ्दाखेरि खालको बुकको स्मेल, राइट, त्यो खालको स्मेल पनि वी डोन्ट गेट इन अनलाइन लाइब्रेरी or e-library, the writer said that. So in this way, the writer has clearly talked about the differences between the physical library in existence and e-library, right? E-library, which are the shift after 1990s in the field of library. It's all about on library, right? So यदि कुराहरू के चेन्ज आयो अथवा कसरी कसरी कस्तो खालको चेन्जेसहरू 1990s, बिफोर 1990s र आफ्टर 1990s भन्ने खालको कुराहरू चाहिँ मेन कुरा भनेको, राइट, फिजिकलिटी अफ बुक्स. After 1990s, all the books they were digitized, right? And the readers, they didn't have to go to the shelves or the libraries, right, after 1990s, but the readers, they had to go to the library for reading the books. All right, now the exercises that have been given here, I have presented the short answers here. Where could the author be found when he was late for lunch or dinner in the library? What are his first memories? His first memories are large oak panel room with all four walls covered by bookcases and a solid table for writing and studying in the middle. Why did he dislike school? Because he disliked school because he wanted to be active, learn for himself, learn what he wanted, and in the way which suited him best. What did he feel about the library? At the library, he felt free to look at the thousands, 10,000s of books, free to roam and to enjoy the spatial atmosphere and the quiet companionship of other readers like himself on quest of their one. Why was he so biased about sciences, especially astronomy and chemistry? Because he was interested to study science. Science like it was like to interest you. Why did he become so fascinated by book? Because he was much admired in the 19th century and he had composed more than 500 operas, right? Described library at the Queen's College. It was a magnificent library building, right? It itself had been designed by Christopher Wren, one of the designers, and beneath this, right, there was an underground maze of heating pipes and shelves with the vast subterranean holdings of the library, as it is mentioned in the text there. So, why did the students ignore the bookshelves in 1990s? Because the books, they have been digitized there. Why was he horrified when he visited the library a couple of months ago? So he was horrified, or he was worried because the books, they have been replaced or they have been digitized. He was notified when he visited the library a couple of months ago because he found the shelves once overflowing, sparsely occupied. Most of the books they have been digitized or they had been digitized. All right. The author says, I was not a good pupil, but I was a good listener. Justify it with the textual evidences. So it says passive learning versus active learning. So you wanted to show how he wanted to be active in learning or self-learning, right? Or actively learning. Proverb says, nothing is pleasanter than exploring a library. Does this proverb apply in this essay? Yes, the author was fascinated by the books, right? He visited many libraries of different colleges. He didn't like the digitization of books. No? So physicality of books help to create um, camaraderie or friendship there. So these things we can discuss there. Next question asks you if any services that you'd like to see added in the library. You can write on it one internet cafeteria or other what other things you like to do. Reference beyond the text. Write an essay on libraries and its uses for the students. You can do it, right? You can write a top thesis statement or a main idea. त्यसको आधारमा चाहिँ अरू controlling आइडियाहरू अथवा body paragraph you can develop how it is useful for students. So in this way you can do. Next, do you have any public library in your locality? If so, the people in your community, how they how do they use it? In this way you can write it. Otherwise, just first concentrate गर्नुभयो भने it will be enough for your examination. And this much for today. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please don't forget to subscribe it if you like the video, because we are going to upload other many videos for grade 12 English. Thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy.